I want to read to you something. It's not just conservatives who are concerned about the idea of indicting Donald Trump. Now, let me back up here and tell you this is what we understand. The understanding is there are 34 counts, and they relate to Trump paying money via Michael Cohen to Stormy Daniels, the porn star. There is an argument to be made, and the Trump team, I'm sure, will make it, that they were essentially paying an extortionist, someone who was blackmailing him, and that's the crime, not him. And that the DA went after him for paying the money, paying the ransom, is faulty. Keep in mind that the DA in Manhattan, Alvin Bragg, in December of this past year, said they couldn't prosecute something like 50 gun crime cases because they didn't have enough money in the budget. They were overwhelmed. But they can indict Donald Trump for paying a woman hush money. Based on using a federal crime, it appears that no one has thought to charge him with. Liberals pride themselves in being open-minded. They claim to be open-minded. They claim to be tolerant. They claim to value other people's opinions. They claim to be insightful. If you really are, then you need to listen to this. Thursday's events are the results of Manhattan District Attorney Alvin Bragg's decision early in his tenure to abandon a probe centered on the former president's business practices in favor of what had come to be known as the zombie case, the matter of a $130,000 payment made to adult film star Stormy Daniels in exchange for her silence about an affair she claimed she had with Mr. Trump. Check writer Michael Cohen, Mr. Trump's longtime lawyer and fixer, pleaded guilty to crimes related to the payment in 2018. Though the precise charges are not yet known, it's expected the prosecutors are now going after his boss for supposedly covering up the reimbursements for the favor. Falsifying records in this way is usually a misdemeanor, but if done to cover up another crime, it can be a felony. The idea here is that the hush money payment constituted an improper political donation because it benefited Mr. Trump so close to the election. Pyramiding two transgressions of state rules to go after a federal candidate is legally plausible. But the strategy is also novel, and courts may regard it with skepticism. What's more, the potential campaign finance charge itself is shaky. When federal prosecutors charged former Senator John Edwards with a similar crime following his 2008 presidential run, he rebutted the accusation by arguing he was trying to disguise his faithlessness from his wife rather than from voters. The trial ended in an acquittal. The Department of Justice dropped the charges. Breaches of campaign finance law undermine democracy and deserve to be taken seriously, yet the potential downsides of indicting Mr. Trump ought to be taken seriously too. The prosecution is now bound to be a test case for any future former president, as well as, of course, proceedings against this former president in particular. Other investigations underway include the Justice Department's examination of January 6th insurrection, classified documents, where the possibilities of obstruction of justice are grave. These are straightforward cases compared to this one. A failed prosecution over the hush money payment could put them all in jeopardy and provide Mr. Trump ammunition for his accusations of witch hunt. Public perception and political strategy shouldn't dissuade a district attorney from bringing a solid case, but neither should they persuade him to bring a shaky one. This prosecution needs to be airtight or it's not worth continuing. That's the Washington Post editorial page. When you've lost progressives, the Washington Post editorial page, the headline is "The Trump indictment is a poor test case for prosecuting a former president." When you've lost the Washington Post out of the gate, you might want to pay attention to this. You people are going to get this man reelected president of the United States, and I will laugh in your face when it happens. There is a segment of the American population that doesn't care for Donald Trump, but they really hate aggressive political prosecutions. To prosecute Donald Trump for this crime, based on what we know, based on the leaks from the Manhattan DA's office, where even prosecutors inside the office tried to dissuade Alvin Bragg from pursuing this, based on all of that, We presume this is the Stormy Daniels case. Based on that presumption, what they have to show is that Donald Trump paid Stormy Daniels and cooked the books of his company to cover it up so that it didn't come out in the campaign, that it was related to his campaign for the presidency. And that even though federal prosecutors chose not to prosecute Donald Trump for this, including Joe Biden's own prosecutors who looked at it and dismissed it, that it's still a crime. And they will have to overcome Donald Trump's accusation that he has a prenup with his wife, and if he were to admit to adultery or to be found out, he would pay her millions of dollars. And that's why he covered this up. It was the cost of doing business. It was cheaper to pay Stormy Daniels than to pay his wife for the exposure of adultery, which is a very legitimate defense for Trump. I had to pay the woman to shut up because I would have to pay my ex-wife more when she divorced me for adultery. You may laugh at it, but it's a legitimate defense. It's what John Edwards used and was acquitted for. And now let's set this all up for you. Let's paint the scenario. We're headed into recessionary times. Yes. Every major financial analyst says we're going to be in a recession by the end of this year, into next year. Donald Trump is running for president. As the New York DA has threatened to indict him and word has gotten out, Donald Trump has skyrocketed in the polling for Republicans. A lot of sympathy for him. So Donald Trump gets the Republican nomination. We head into a recession. You know, the very same Democrats who thought he would be the easiest candidate to beat in 2016, so they worked to get him the nomination for Hillary Clinton. Well, they got beat then. They'll get beat now. There's a segment of the population as we head into a recession that may not like Donald Trump, but will think, I don't remember when Donald Trump was president, the economy being in ruins, but for the COVID situation, that was China's fault, not his fault. I may not like the guy. I may not like the mean tweets, but I'd rather the mean tweets than being unemployed. And oh, by the way, these people conducted a witch hunt against him. He was found not guilty. The case was thrown out. So maybe, just maybe, what they're telling me about him isn't true. And then he wins the presidency. Now, strategically, if I were the Democrats right now, I would go on and charge him every which way in every other case. Let the Justice Department come out and charge him immediately. Pour in all the indictments against him federally. Georgia prosecutors, go on and prosecute him now. Weigh him down with indictments in New York, in Georgia, and in Washington, D.C. Overwhelm him so much so that he's distracted from the campaign trail. You want to stop Donald Trump? You probably better do that because Alvin Bragg just reelected the man to the presidency if you don't. Now, I will tell you, there are two camps. There are two camps in this, and I've gotten a lot of emails from people, and the overwhelming number of emails was, is this the Democrats' way of ensuring Donald Trump is the nominee so they can beat him in the general election? Is this what they're doing? No, I don't think so. I'm not in that camp. I know some of you are. Some of you believe the reason Alvin Bragg and the Democrats have decided to prosecute Donald Trump is because they know Republicans will rally around him and give him the Republican nomination. They're scared to death of Ron DeSantis. They're not scared of Trump. They think they can beat him. This is their way to make sure he's the nominee. I don't actually think, I'm not in that camp. I don't think Alvin Bragg is that smart. I think he's kind of a short bus prosecutor who got there because George Soros funded him. He's hyper woke. He's not very bright. And I don't think these grand jurors in New York are that bright at all. I think these people just despise Donald Trump. They're in the frame of mind of we got to nail the SOB. That's their idea. We got to nail the SOB. It's not me saying that. That's them saying that. They hate Donald Trump. They can't call him president. They can only call him expletives. They want to nail the guy. They think they've got him. They're going to try to get him. They want him buried under the jail. It's all emotion. It's all rage. And this is what they're doing. And you know, and I know in life, when you make a bunch of decisions based on emotion and rage, it tends to blow up in your face. And that's what's going to happen here. I will tell you, Echelon Insights, my buddy Patrick Ruffini, his polling from Echelon Insights, they have polled Republican voters. There is a 13 percentage point shift toward Ron DeSantis on the question of, conducted last week, if Donald Trump is indicted, who do you support? Donald Trump is handily beating Ron DeSantis among Republicans nationally in this poll. When you ask, what if Trump's indicted, there's a 13-point shift to Ron DeSantis. But Donald Trump still wins. The upside for DeSantis is that the elections don't start until next year. And in fact, in Georgia, South Carolina, New Hampshire, and in Iowa, DeSantis is already tied or ahead of Trump, and he's not even a declared candidate. So maybe we'll see. I personally think that, yes, Republicans will tend to circle the wagon around Trump, whether they should or they should not. And this will help Donald Trump secure the Republican nomination. You head into a recession. The economy collapses. Joe Biden is president of the United States. The Democrats still control the United States Senate. Good luck, Democrats. Good luck. That's what Alvin Bragg has given you. But there's something else here as well. And this is kind of the important one here. There's very little wiggle room on Donald Trump. You like him or you don't. You love him or you hate him. My personal position, and you all know where I stand on this issue, I think Donald Trump needs to go away. I think the GOP does better without Trump than with him. I think moving forward, we saw a bunch of voters reject Republicans in 2022 who otherwise would have voted for them, but they were tired of Trump and Trump arguments, and they just want to move on. And I think Donald Trump lingering in and festering within the GOP is bad for the GOP. I do. That's my position. And I think if Democrats ignored him, if the media stopped giving him coverage, he would just fade away. But they can't help it because their ratings went up and their fundraising was so good. When they obsessed over Donald Trump, they made money. It's a sick symbiotic relationship between Trump and the Democrats. They need him and he needs them. But I will tell you this, I'm on record thinking Trump needs to go away. He's not helpful for the party. But when Donald Trump takes his mugshot, autographs it, and sells it for $2,000, I'll freaking buy one. He will fund his presidential race off that mugshot autographed. And the GOP will shift themselves into the Trump camp, and he will be the Republican nominee. And I will tell the Democrats, I told you so. Can't blame a single. I think Donald Trump needs to go away. I can't blame a single Republican for saying, you know what? I think he's my guy. We got to have this guy's back. Witch hunt. They didn't die to ham sandwich if they could. They went after Donald Trump. I got to have his back. I don't blame you for taking that position. I don't. I disagree, but I don't blame you. I totally get it. And when he becomes the nominee and when he beats Joe Biden in 2024, we can replay today's show and just say, I told you so, I told you so. There is a small group of people in this country of independent mind who don't care for Donald Trump, but they really hate political prosecutions. And they will side up with Donald Trump in the middle of a recession just to spite the Democrats as an I told you so moment. You Democrats out there, you're playing with fire and you don't even realize it. You won't until you've been burned.